Welcome back to History Reminds Us. I'm Chris, and today we're diving deep into one of the darkest chapters in Tennessee and American penal history, Brushy Mountain State Penitentiary. This was more than just a prison. For over a century, it was the literal gates to hell for thousands of inmates, a brutal coal mine, a battleground for labor wars, and a home to some of the nation's most infamous criminals. So buckle up, this story isn't for the faint of heart. After the Civil War, Tennessee's coal mining industry exploded, fueling the railroads and industry, but coal mining came with a dark price. Most mining companies built company towns in remote areas where workers paid rent and were trapped in a cycle of debt. Rent inflated prices at company stores, barely scraping by. The miners fought back, striking during the harshest winters when coal was most in demand, but in 1866, Tennessee started leasing convicts to work in the mines, breaking the strikes and turning miners against the state. This was all made possible by a loophole in the 13th Amendment. While slavery was abolished, involuntary servitude remained legal as punishment for crime. Southern states exploited this, locking up mainly black men on minor or trumped-up charges and leasing them out as cheap labor. The tension exploded in 1891 with the Coal Creek War. Miners took up arms, attacking state prisons and mines, and even loaded convicts onto trains to send them away. The state called in troops, but the cost of violence forced Tennessee to rethink. The solution? Build their own maximum security prison to control convicted labor. The prison was Brushy Mountain. By 1896, inmates themselves were laying the railroad tracks and building the original wooden prison with their bare hands. Conditions were brutal. Disease, violence, and back-breaking labor were everyday life. Tuberculosis and typhoid, ammonia and syphilis illnesses spread unchecked. Prisoners were whipped if they didn't meet mining quotas, even when sick, and many died underground. Brushy wasn't designed to be humane. It was designed to be a fortress, a cage, a deadly work camp. By 1931, overcrowding was so bad that Brushy held nearly 1,000 inmates, 300 more than its capacity, earning comparison to Siberian prisons. The state responded by building a new stone and concrete prison shaped like a Greek cross, surrounded by an 18-foot stone wall. For a brief time, it offered a glimmer of hope, safer, more sanitary, and more symbolic, offering a path to redemption. Mining remained the prison's focus until the 1960s. In 1969, Brushy was officially reclassified as a maximum security prison. By then, it was known as the last stop for the worst criminals. If you ended up at Brushy, things had gone very wrong. And the notorious D Block was built in 1957 to isolate the most dangerous inmates. It stood where the old death house once was, the place where bodies of dead inmates waited for burial. In the 70s and 80s, violence exploded inside Brushy. Guards went on strike, riots broke out, and inmates killed each other in bloody fights that made national news. Despite a few improvements, like the Brushy Chapel and the high-security annex, the prison remained a place of darkness and despair. Brushy housed many infamous men, but three stood out. James Earl Ray, the man who assassinated Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., arriving in 1970. Ray was restless and repeatedly tried to escape, even crawling through a steam plant and climbing prison walls. In 1981, he was stabbed 22 times, some say payback for King's assassination. He left Brushy in 1992 and died in 1998. Brian Low Tax Looper, a corrupt politician who legally changed his middle name to Low Tax as a gimmick after a failed political career and scandal-ridden tenure as a property assessor, he murdered his opponent in 1998 and was sentenced to Brushy. His refusal to scrub pans earned him an extra month of chores. He died in 2013. Paul Dennis Reed, known as the fast food killer, Reed murdered 7 people at fast food restaurants across Tennessee in the late 90s. Convicted and sentenced to death, he was sent to Brushy before dying of pneumonia in 2013. Brushy wasn't all horror. Some inmates found faith in the Brushy Chapel, where over 1,000 were baptized. In the 1970s, a deer named Geronimo became an unlikely prison pet, a symbol of hope for inmates and guards alike. Mining finally stopped in the 60s and 70s, thanks to a reform-minded warden and economic realities. The prison closed in 2009 after 113 years. Today, it stands as a museum and event venue, reminding us of Tennessee's painful history and the resilience of the human spirit. Brushy Mountain State Penitentiary was more than a prison. It was a symbol of Tennessee's sins and struggles over more than a century. It bore witness to violence, injustice, and suffering, but also to redemption and hope. Thanks for watching. If you want to dive deeper into America's complex past, please like, subscribe, and ring the bell. Drop a comment what part of Brushy's story surprised you the most. Until next time, this is History Reminds Us, reminding you that history is never far behind.